after making and winning their first bowl game since 1960 back in 2017, New Mexico State has won just 5 games combined over the past 2 seasons. And things don't seem to be getting any better in Doug Martin's 8th year with the program. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, the best kept secret in all of college football. Today, bringing you our 2020 New Mexico State Aggies college football predictions. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos, as well as check out everything down in the description below, where you can get exclusive content on our website, thegridironexpert.com, as well as follow us on all of our social media pages over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So man, let me tell you, 2017 seems like a long, long time ago. Even more so if you're a New Mexico State fan. Because it seemed like the Aggies had maybe finally turned a corner under head coach Doug Martin. But then 2018 hit, and the Aggies went right back to their non-winning ways. They started 2019 0-9 and finished the season at just 2-10. We take a look at their roster here, guys. There's not much to work with, especially offensively. Only 4 returning starters from a unit that averaged just 21.7 points per game. And I might be a little more high on this New Mexico State offense if they hadn't lost their quarterback in Josh Adkins. It looked like this guy had a lot of promise. Maybe if he had stuck with it, he could get New Mexico State back to the bowl game. But he decided to transfer. New Mexico State also loses their top 2 rushers from last year. So now they have a quarterback battle between Jonah Johnson and Weston Egypt, and no one knows who's going to get it. My gut says it's going to go to Jonah Johnson, but that's entirely up to Doug Martin and who he believes is going to run his system the best way. We know that New Mexico State's strength will be their offensive line, which may benefit the Michigan transfer running back in Omari Samuels. This could be a New Mexico State team that likes to run the ball a little bit more, at least early on, until they can find consistency at the quarterback position. Defensively, maybe will be their strength. Maybe it's going to be their kryptonite. 7 returning starters back, but they finished second to last in the country in points per game allowed last year at 41 and rushing yards per game allowed last year at 259.2. The passing defense was the only slight thing that was good for the Aggies. They finished 55th in the country last year. Now it's going to be the other way around. The front 7 is going to be their strength. So you might see a little bit more of a pass rush. You might see those rushing numbers improve defensively. But the secondary is very thin, very weak. So you might see the roles just reverse defensively for the Aggies going into 2020. We take a look at their schedule, guys. It's a lot more feasible than it was last year. The Aggies opened up 2019 with games against Washington State, Alabama, San Diego State, and then in November had a date against Ole Miss. It's brutal, absolutely brutal. They don't have to do that this year. First 3 games are much more feasible than that. They don't really have any scary late season games with the exception of the finale against Florida. We'll start with a game at UCLA, kicking it off in week 0, August 29th. A UCLA team that's 7-17 since Chip Kelly took over. But last year they appeared to turn a slight corner. Yes, they went 4-8, but all 4 of those wins came in conference play. UCLA has struggled in non-conference games under Chip Kelly, but I don't think they struggle here against the Aggies. They take a loss to the Bruins, and we haven't taken a loss to UAB as well, a UAB team that returns 19 starters from last year, and I think will really light up the scoreboard down in Birmingham. They return home, though, to take on Akron, their first home game of the season. An Akron team that went 0-12 last year, guys, did not win a single game, and were ranked last in every offensive category except their passing, which was 100th in the country. They averaged just 10.5 points per game. Look, I've seen high school teams, pee-wee teams, do better than that. Emperor of Rome, I'm sorry, but New Mexico State will win this game. Tom Arth still has a lot to do with the Zips. I don't see them coming on the road to New Mexico State, a team that I think has a slight defensive edge, and right now certainly has the slight offensive edge despite all the questions. So they get their first win of the season against Akron. They're 1-2. They then take on their in-state rival, New Mexico. Usually this is a good game, guys. Rivalry games, you throw records out the window, you throw history out the window. Every year, every game is a brand new opportunity to dethrone your rival. And last year between the Lobos and the Aggies, it was a classic. 55-52 in favor of New Mexico. The only reason it was so fun was because neither team had a defense. Each defense allowed over 37 points per game last year. Like the Aggies, the Lobos went 2-10 in 2019. They bring in a new head coach in Danny Gonzalez, and they also bring in a new defensive coordinator, Rocky Long. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he was the former head coach at San Diego State as recently as last year. Decided to resign himself, come back as defensive coordinator for the Lobos. He's going to run that 3-3-5 defense, and I have a little bit more faith in him, and I have a little bit more faith in New Mexico's offense that with the talent they have, should be somewhat effectively able to run an RPO offense. I think New Mexico State struggles in this one. They fall to the Lobos. We got them bouncing back, though, against UTEP. Again, how do we have them bouncing back against UTEP with the game being on the road? Well, the Miners are 2-34 over the past 3 seasons. They carry an 11-game losing streak coming in to 2020. Their one win last year was by 2 points over Houston Baptist. They have quarterback questions themselves. Really, the Miners football program is just an absolute mess. It's an absolute mess. And like many of the teams that New Mexico State will have to face, it's going to take a very long time for someone to kind of come in and fix that mess. So we have New Mexico State winning this game on the road against the Miners, but they return home, and we do have them losing to the Bobcats of Texas State. This is a Texas State team, guys, I do think will take a major step offensively. This is a Texas State team that expected better things last year. They only averaged 18.4 points per game. They only went 3-9. They have a lot of young talent. They've got some experienced quarterbacks on their team, and Tyler Vitt and Brady McBride, the transfer from Memphis. I think you could see Texas State maybe win 4 or 5 games in 2020, and if something goes their way, maybe they get into the postseason. One of those wins will come, though, against New Mexico State. I think Texas State takes that big step forward this year. Then New Mexico State hits a very, very rough stretch, guys. At Hawaii, at Fresno State, at Louisiana. All teams that should be very good offensively. Hawaii, yes, they lose Cole McDonald, the record-setting quarterback. But Todd Graham comes in. Remember, he was the former head coach at Arizona State. Now that Nick Rolovich has left to go take the job at Washington State, he's going to come in and run basically the same offense that Rolovich was trying to run. And he ran it effectively. I think Graham just that. Hawaii still has plenty of talent there. They have a great running back in Miles Reed, over 900 rushing yards. They've got a very capable quarterback in Chevin Cordiero, who was backing up and started a few games in replacement of Cole McDonald. Hawaii is going to be just fine and will remain Mountain West title contenders. Lost there. Lost to Fresno State. New head coach in Kalen DeBoer. Brilliant offensive mind. Transformed Indiana's offense last year en route to an 8-win season for the Hoosiers. Yes, they went 4-8. And yes, they might not be a strong passing team, at least early on. They do have Ronnie Rivers, who rushed for over 800 yards last year, going up against an Aggies defense that allowed 259.2 rushing yards per game, as we mentioned. Fresno State should take easy care of this game, and Louisiana, despite having to come out to New Mexico, will annihilate the Aggies, guys. A Louisiana team that went 11-3 last year, returns 14 starters from that team, returns their quarterback in Levi Lewis, the 1,100-yard rusher in Elijah Lewis, and a defense that ranked 18th nationally in scoring at 19.7 points per game. The Raging Cajuns are the favorites in the Sun Belt, maybe just outside of Appalachian State, and should come in and get a nice rest with an easy win over the Aggies. And it sounds brutal, it sounds rough to say, but we're just being honest. New Mexico State, I don't know, has the offensive capability to win any game where it could become a shootout, and these three could certainly become just that. They get a bye week on Halloween. Road game at UMass, Texas Southern, and we'll go ahead and mark down the loss against Florida. We know that's coming. Dan Mullen, Kyle Trask, the Gators are not only SEC East title contenders, but also playoff contenders if things go their way. They get the bye week going into the game against UMass. UMass was really the only team that was worse defensively than New Mexico State. They were really the only team worse defensively in the country last year than New Mexico State. So Kind of like New Mexico here, you're either looking at a game that could be low scoring because neither has that great of an offense, or a game that's going to be very high scoring because no one has to play defense. The Aggies are coming off a bye week here. UMass and Walt Bell still have lots of pieces to replace across the board. This is a very young Minutemen team, guys. This is a very young team. They're learning to play the youth, so maybe they can build it up in year 3 or year 4. I like Doug Martin and his squad to come in and take care of business against UMass. They get a win here, and we give them a win over Texas Southern as well. I think that's going to be a nice little break. Certainly not a game they can afford to overlook, but a Texas Southern team that hasn't been great in recent years. So the Aggies win that, lose to Florida as we mentioned, which means they close 2020 at 4-8. So they double their win total from last year. 2-10 in 2019, now 4-8 in 2020, and in nearly one season they would have won one less game than they've won in the past 2 years combined. Remember, they've won 5 games in 2018 and 2019 combined. In 2020, they win 4. And considering the amount they lost offensively, considering how bad the defense was last year, this might almost be considered a success for the Aggies and Doug Martin. Yeah, they're not going bowling. Yeah, they're going to get blown out in a handful of games, but they did win 4 games, and 3 of which are going to come against FBS opponents. So I'm not saying New Mexico State and the Aggies and Doug Martin are heading in the right direction, but they do show signs of improvement. And at a school and a program like this that has struggled for so long, that's really all you can ask for. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos, as well as check out everything down in the description below, where we have exclusive content on our website, thegridironexpert.com, as well as all of our social media pages over on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.